Hello there, pro wrestling fans. It's Bobby Blaze, the anti-mime. I guess that's who I got to be this week, the anti-mime, because Jeremy the Professor Vilmer isn't going to be with us today, folks. I think he's hanging out with that Silver Scorpion again. They've been known to get in some heel trouble together every once in a while, and I don't know if they're traveling or out surfing or doing what scorpions do. Maybe they're down in Florida stinging people. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, I'm here. Thanks for tuning in last week. We appreciate it very much. Good response on the books. Just for everyone's information, my favorite book or novel is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. That's my favorite, man. I read it in high school, and I still go back to that every couple of summers. I'll break out a copy and read that, and I really enjoy it. Appreciate any feedback and all feedback. I'm just an avid reader. I'm currently rereading the Count of Monte Cristo is what I'm rereading. Forgot to mention that I started that last Tuesday, I think it was, when the power went out, and I had it on my Kindle from a while back, and read it for a couple of days until the power went out of Kindle. I did sit out in my car some in the sunlight, in the snow, and the same thing that I'm doing today, I had to do last week, is copping a little Wi-Fi feel, if you know what I mean, man, because my Wi-Fi is still not on. It's supposed to be on, I'll say that. When I get home, it very well could be on, I don't know. But I'm just copping this Wi-Fi feel out here in the thin, crisp air of LA, Lower Ashland, for those that you don't know. So kind of back where I grew up at, actually, once I moved back here to Kentucky from Maryland. I'm in LA, yep, Lower Ashland. So don't be surprised if you don't hear some noise, cars going by, maybe some homeless people tapping on the windows, I don't know. Maybe some people placing orders. You're liable to hear anything in the background or here. Hell, you might hear someone from the back seat before too long if I see Melanie walking by. She likes to hang out down at these parts of town. I do know that. I know that from experience, believe that. Well, anyway, this week's topic, now that I've rambled on enough here, is I think you guys are going to enjoy this, and I'm going to enjoy doing it. That's the top mullets in pro wrestling. Mullets, yeah. Well, let me tell you about the mullet, man. I had a mullet one time for a long time, and I didn't know what it was called, the actual cut. I just knew I liked to wear my hair that way. And I was up in working for Cleveland All-Pro Wrestling one time. I was on about a 3 or 4 day loop for JT Lightning's Cleveland All-Pro. And I think the first night started off in Sandusky, Ohio. And we were in this building that was a real good show, too. It was a real good loop they put together, man. Sabu was on it. Ricky Morton was on it. Tracy Smothers, R.I.P., was on it. Doug Gilbert, JT, the Shiki, Canadian Bad Boy. I can't remember if they had any girls or not. But anyway, man, it was a good show. And I was out there and had to work with JT Lightning the first night. And the first night was in an old theater. And so the building, all the seats were, just like you would in a theater, but instead of the screen down there, they had the stage, they had the ring set up right there with a couple additional ringside on each side. Anyway, it was pretty cool, and I'm in the ring, and we lock up, I don't know, start a fourth match, and a good crowd, by the way, good crowd back then, and JT and I lock up, and I walk him slowly back towards the turnbuckle, and I push him away a little bit because the referee's calling for the break, and I said, "He pulled my hair." And when I said that, some way, that's what an old Southern heel type move would do. Someone said, "He pulled his mullet." And I looked over and I said, "What the fuck's a mullet?" And everyone popped on that. And this guy said, "It's your haircut. You got a mullet, hillbilly, And so I was like, whatever. I kicked the ropes, sold it, doing whatever I was doing as a heel. I had my Terry Funk Titty Llama boots on. I think I was wrestling in jeans at that time in a Blaze shirt. Well, JT come over, we locked up again, and I said, do it again. I said, what the fuck is a mullet? He says, it's the haircut you got, dude. And so we got to the turnbuckle, and I said, he pulled my mullet. And of course, the referee come over and asked JT, and of course, he was being a baby face that he was that time. He's denying he pulled the mullet, and I'm telling the referee and the fans, and of course, the fans are eating it up that I'm up there getting my mullet pulled, man. So that's when the first time I heard about what a mullet was, and good times, man. A lot of good times out the road. So the way I'm going to do this today is a bit different than a top 10. I'm going to do this like a bracket, like for NCAA basketball or some kind of a playoff or a tournament. And I'm going to give you 12. I'm going to put 6 people on each side of the bracket. So if you can imagine that in a 12-man tournament here to see who had the best wrestling mullet or the best mullet in professional wrestling. I got distracted there. God, I'm seeing some guy throwing some kind of slob off of a sandwich or something, trying to eat with a mask on. I don't even fucking know. For fuck's sakes, man. Anyway, do you like sunsets or sunrises? Or is it a sunrise versus sunset? What kind of person are you? I don't know. That just come to mind just now because I'm out here and it's getting quite sunny out, which I appreciate and I'm glad for. I used to like watching sunsets, man. I don't watch too many sunrises anymore. During this pandemic, I've been sleeping in a little bit later. My sleep clock is way off, man. Going to bed later and getting up later. But I'll get back on track sooner or later. That's a good question to think about. Sunsets versus sunrises. And where are you at in your life, Okay, so like I said, we got a 12-man tournament here, and I'll give you some names that's going to be in it, and then I'll tell you the lineups. We got Sean Waltman, the 1-2-3 Kid, got Brad Armstrong, Barry Horowitz, Eddie Guerrero, Bobby Eaton, Scott Hall, Crush Adams, Brian Adams there, Big Mike Awesome, he had a hell of a mullet, HBK, George South, he had a mullet, man. Then I had Ricky Morton, and let's see, Jake Roberts. Put Jake in there. He had a mullet going for a long time, So anyway, we got these guys in this tournament, and so the way I paired them up here is on one side of the bracket, we're going to have Brad Armstrong versus Barry Horowitz. We're going to have Mike Awesome versus Crush. We're going to have HBK versus, let's see, who are we going to have him versus here? George South, how about that? We'll match them two up together. On the other side of the brackets, we're going to have the 1-2-3 Kid going against Big Scott Hall here, Razor Ramon. Eddie Guerrero going against Jake Roberts. And I think you'll like this classic matchup, Bobby Eaton versus Ricky Morton for the best mullet on that side. So let's start off our matches. I'm going to get a drink of water. Real quick here. Let me swish that around. Yep. Good stuff there. Ice cold water I had. Got about another drink left in it, looks like. So, first match, Brad Armstrong versus Barry Horowitz. Now, this is not a match for technicians in the ring or smoothness, or hell, Brad would probably win the whole thing for smoothness, man. He's one of the best ever inside and outside the ring there as far as working in and out of holes and just the smoothness, flow, that Russian leg sweep float over. But we're going for mullets here, man. And Barry Horowitz, trained by the great Malenko and Dean, and he was a NWA Florida Heavyweight Champion at one time. He was winless Jack Hart, and of course he had a good run up there in WWF and some in WCW. And I've told a few Barry Horowitz stories on here before, but who do I think? I don't know. I'll come back to that one, because in that same bracket, you're going to have Mike Awesome against Crush. That's going to be your second match in that bracket there, then we'll jump over to the other side. So, right off the top of my head, I'd say Brad Armstrong had a better mullet than Barry Horowitz. And as much as I liked Mike Awesome's big old head mullet, boy, Crush might have had one of the best ever, man. Big Brian Adams. He was a big, strong cocksucker, too, let me tell you. He was a big, strong cocksucker, man, let me tell you. Yeah, I know I repeated myself and I said cocksucker. I guess because I was listening to Joey Diaz's podcast before I came on, and that's what he always says. So that's no reflection of any person on this list by any means. I'm going to put my, no, you know what? I'm going to put Crush over. Brian Adams. Let's put him over right there. So that next matchup will be between Brad Armstrong and Brian Adams. Let's switch to the other side. The first match is going to be Sean Waltman versus Scott Hall. Man, oh man. Now, see, they had that matchup before, and that's how 123 or X-Pac, whatever, got his big break up there. He went up there and, you know, he's Cannonball Kid, Lightning Kid, whatever kind of kid name they could think of for the time. But he had a hell of a mullet up there, too, man, you know, weighing about $155 against Big Scott Hall, weighing the Razor Ramon, weighing, you know, 300 pounds and, you know, 6'7", dangerous man. And, anyway, that's your first match on that side, and your second matchup is going to be Eddie Guerrero versus Jake Roberts. Now, I would have liked to see them two work in a match because of the psychology of Jake and the way Eddie can move. I think they could have really, you know, put on some good matches together. Especially both of them in their prime, you know. So think about that match. But again, we're going for mullets here. So on the first one, I'm going to go with, even though Razor Ramon had that greasy hair and a toothpick and all that and a big stud look there, you know, I'm going to put X-Pac over 1, 2, 3 because there's an upset that started off right away. Sean Waltman had that hell of a mullet, man. So he's going to go off that bracket. And the next one is going to be between Eddie and Jake, man. I tell you what, Eddie had a hell of a mullet, man. Jake had one, but he was losing that hair on the front a little bit. And I know men bald as they get older a little bit and things like that. Maybe the Silver Scorpion knows the things about that too. Or maybe he just shaves his head because he likes to. And he also likes to hang out on futons. I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of missing him this week, but I'm glad to be doing this podcast. I know that, and I'm glad you folks have tuned into it. I'm going to give the benefit to Eddie Guerrero on that right there. So your next matchup on that side is going to be Sean Waltman against Eddie Guerrero. That's going to be your next matchup. So coming back to the other side again, let's pick up here. On the lower bracket, we'll go this matchup is going to be HBK Shawn Michaels against George South, it looks like. And George had a hell of a mullet, man. Once again, he wore those headbands on. He wore the bandanas. I'm going to go ahead and give that to HBK, man. You know, a heartbreak kid out there, man, with sexy, sensational Sherry, you know, and, man, just flipping that hair back, coming down to the ring. You know, everyone knew he was over. You know, he was a showstopper, if you will, or whatever. So let's go there. Going on the other side, we're down to this one. We got the old Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express rivalry here. We got my good friend, beautiful Bobby Eaton, putting his mullet on the line against one half of the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton. You know, Ricky had that hell of a mullet for all those years, man. It drove all those girls crazy. You know, if they want to fight, you better let them because they're going to go, man, because they could go. And, of course, Bobby Eaton, you know, one of the best workers ever in the business. And, man, one of the most nicest guys you'd ever meet in the wrestling business. You never hear anyone say anything bad about Bobby. And I tell you that for sure. Good dude. But I have to say this, man, I'm going to put Ricky over on that one. Ricky had the better mullet right there. Bobby's was great at sometimes, but Ricky for longevity because he still walk around with that damn mullet today. And, hell, he has all his hair, it looks like. I think Bobby does too, but I don't think Bobby wears it so much in a mullet anymore. Anyway, let's go back to our brackets there. Everyone keeping up so far. So we're down to Brad Armstrong versus Crush Adams. And HBK, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, you know what? That is right. Yeah, Brad versus Crush. I'm putting Crush over right there. Yeah, Crush. Sorry about that, Brad, but Crush had that big kahuna head thing. I don't know what it was. You know, he's part of that Demolition and part of the biker gang thing. And, man, he had that mullet. So I'm put Crush over on that one right there on that side. On the other side, go with 1, 2, 3 versus Eddie. Sean versus Eddie on that side, Sean Waltman. I'm going to give it to Eddie, man. Eddie just had that slick hair, comb, the way it combed it back when he needed to, flipped it back grease style when he wanted to, just had that better mullet, I think, overall. Sean kind of got away from it at one time wearing a headband. Let's go with Eddie there. And that's going to leave us with Crush on one side. There's a train coming, all right? I'm not down here by Folsom Prison. I'm not doing any Johnny Cash for you today. Although when the power was out, I did try to do some songs with my brother there in the dark. Old country songs we pulled up on the old AM/FM radio there like we did when we was kids. We also pulled up some Dr. Demento songs, man, back like when we was in high school, and every Sunday night the Dr. Demento show would come on, and that's the days you hope for a snow day because it came on at a later hour on a Sunday and you had to stay up, and they'd give you didn't even need a snow day to miss the whole day of school. You just needed an hour delay. I don't know if any of your schools where you're listening to me had that hour delay sometimes. Well, on a Sunday night, if it snowed, you're hoping for that hour delay in the morning so you could get that extra hour of sleep that you're missing out on when you listen to the Dr. Demento show. Anyway, I think that train's about gone. And let's get back to this. So we got Crush versus HBK on one side, and we got Eddie Guerrero versus Ricky Morton on the other side. Man, things are getting close down here. Now, I know I'm probably not going to talk for an hour. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I'm just glad to be putting together a podcast. I hope when this is done recording, I know how to save it and ship it over to Jeremy. I don't know that. And hell, who knows what kind of shape Jeremy will be back in when he gets back, hanging out with that damn Silver Scorpion character, Who knows? I just wish him the best. Hell, maybe he's loving that futon right now. If I go down about 2 blocks, I know what section of town I'm in right now, and I know Melanie hangs out down in that section of town sometimes. I just don't have anything extra on me this week, with the cold and the conditions and everything, so I'm going to probably just mind my own damn business, be the best thing I can do. Stay out of trouble today is what I'm going to try to do. All right, so let's go. Which side do we want to do first? Let's do Crush versus HBK, Shawn Michaels. That'll be a good matchup right there. Man, you just got to give it to Shawn Michaels. That's got to be your best bet right there. He had a hell of a mullet, man. Looks like he go all the way in this thing. He's going to make it. We went through the semifinals. Now we're down to the final 4. Looks like he's already won out of that bracket, HBK. And on the other side of our final 4 there, Eddie Guerrero versus Ricky Morton. Well, I think that's a no-brainer, man, for longevity. We're going to go with Ricky Morton again. Ricky Morton on that side, that beautiful blonde hair, man. Nothing against Eddie's beautiful mullet, but we're going to give this one to Ricky Morton. That'd have been a hell of a match, too. Eddie would be a hell of a match for anyone. I wrestled him twice myself, once in Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania. Fucking Buffalo, I had to drive from Buffalo, New York, from Sunday night. It was a Monday Night Raw. Flew in that day, and then had to go to Erie, Pennsylvania next morning. Man, it was snow on both sides of the highway so high, man. It was in December. I'm like, who booked this shit, And I got to the building and had to wrestle Eddie Guerrero. And Erie, Pennsylvania, when Van Halen performed there was a lot of snow, and David Lee Roth and one of the road agents, roadies rather, they skied, man. They skied through the town there. I read his book, and David Lee Roth, when he went to this little pub, and it was just him and the roadie and a chick sitting at the bar, and the guy started talking to her, and he said, "What's your favorite song?" And she said, like B-125. And he looked over at that lady, and he said, "Right down there is Mr. B-25. And she looked over, saw Diamond Dave sitting down at the bar having a beer, and they played that song. It was just a gigolo. And that night, David Lee Roth had sent tickets for her and I guess her old man and whoever else. And she got like front row to a Van Halen concert for just having a drink in the middle of the day there in Erie, Pennsylvania. When I got there, by God, it was nothing but snow. And I went right to the building and I wrestled Eddie Guerrero. And it was a really good match. People thought I was going to win. Hell, I thought I was going to win. I just stayed on him and stayed on him and stayed on him until the finish. But the finish, was a frog splash, so I didn't win, Well, pin me, pay me. What am I going to say? Oh, yeah, I know what I'm going to say right there. If you're listening to this program for a long time or if you're a first-time listener, I got a couple books I wrote, and I'm real proud of them. And I'm working on a third one. I'm taking my time. But pin me, pay me, have Boots will travel. If you go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1, it'll take you right to that link where you can purchase that book. My second book, I Kicked Out on 2, The Educational Wrestler, is available at tinyurl.com/blazebook2. And that way the show gets a little bit of a kickback off of the purchase of those books. If you're an Amazon member, you're Prime member, you get free shipping, of course. All my books are available on Prime. I've got a naughty book on there. It's X-rated. And I've got a Christmas story on there, a short story about Christmas, my best Christmas ever. And then I've got Yard Time, which is also inside of I Kicked Out on 2 as a short story, so you can buy those for like $2.99. They're just little ebooks. But go down there and visit the site, man. Appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to our main event over here, man. So it looks like Brad Armstreet beat Barry Horowitz. Mike Awesome got beat by Crush. HBK beat George South. Then Brad got beat by Crush, rather, and HBK, he beat someone, George South, I guess it was. And on the other side of it, we've got Sean Waltman beat Scott Hall, Eddie Guerrero beat Jake Roberts, and Bobby Eaton was, I think, upset a little bit by Ricky Morton there. So anyway, we're down to, on that side, we've got two people going at it, folks. The main event, down to the championship match here of the best mullets in pro wrestling of all time. We got the HBK. I'm busy. I don't know what time it is. See what I told you? I told you homeless people come up to you. I hate to be hateful, but I'm busy right now. They done it the other day. They peck on your windows and stuff, and I usually will give them a couple of dollars, man, but I'm busy right now, and I'm not trying to be an asshole. I know how to talk to people, but if you'd have seen this guy, I've seen him before, and I know he's not in need of anything. So he's what a worker is. He's out there working. He's not homeless. So don't feel sorry or think I'm a prick or an asshole, because if the right situation was there, I'd hand him a dollar or two. But he wasn't wanting to know what fucking time he was. He was sitting there holding his hand up and had a watch on it. So I saw it. He's drinking a cold bottle of water, it looked like, and had a damn watch on. Don't work a worker, man. Come on. Anyway, we're up to the championship match. It's Ricky Morton versus HBK. All right. Write in and let me know if I get it right or if I get it wrong. Hit me up at Bobby Blaze 744 on Twitter. That's my only social media. If the Scorpion hasn't taken over Jeremy's account, he's at the Geekish Cast on Twitter. We've got a joint account that Jeremy runs, and it's Bell to Bell Blaze on Twitter. And he has that also on Facebook, so hit him up there wherever you want. I do support the Twitter account, and add to it sometimes. I just don't control it. I'm just very lucky to run my own Twitter account, But so if I get this right or wrong, let me know. Or if you thought someone else should have been a champion of this, let me know that too. Once again, I appreciate you tuning in to the podcast, the Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze podcast. And I'm going to say this right now. You're a champion of the top. Well, we had started with 12, so we always do a top 10, and this is going to be, just basically top mullets in professional wrestling, and it goes to Punky. That's right, Ricky Morton, baby, one half the Rock and Roll Express. He upsets the HBK for the best mullet in professional wrestling. Ricky Morton, man, hats off to you. That way we can see your mullet, man. Now, let me think here for a second. That guy got me off, trying to get me off track there. But you know what? It's my program, and you can take these 12 guys here, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm throwing in the Freebird rule. It's my program. I'm throwing in the Freebird rule. The best mullet in professional wrestling, Bobby Blaze, baby. I'm throwing in free. I had a great mullet, man. I told you, man. People in Cleveland, Ohio was they was getting on, get on my side. I say he's up there pulling my mullet and stuff, And so, but you know what? All right, I gotta confess, I'm more modest than that. I've seen videos when I'm in WCW and pictures from Smoky Mountain and stuff. And yeah, I got blessed hair. Believe me, I've been blessed to have my head of hair my whole life. And boy, I had them golden, long blonde locks at one time. But I'm too modest to accept this award as the best mullet in professional wrestling. But I tell you, y'all are probably thinking, well, there's someone else out there. And, well, I'll just say this. Ricky Morton won the tournament. And I could easily say I've got a good mullet or had a good mullet. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell you. There's only one person that's perfect, and that's Mr. Perfect. Kurt Hennig had the best mullet in professional wrestling. He comes in for the Freebird rule right there. I'm giving that to him. Man, oh man. Now you got 14 people on that list that we started off with 12, so you can add me and add Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, for the best mullet in professional wrestling. And I'm going to tell you, the night I tried out for the WCW in Charlotte, North Carolina, that was the night after Perfect busted Ric Flair in the cage, I think, and was going to join the Horsemen. And anyway, I had already had my dark match, and I was sitting up there, doing my thing. I had to go to the back and do some business and stuff. There was 3 dark matches, and then I had to do some business with a couple of the road agents, Jimmy Hart, Terry Taylor, Arn, and some of those guys. I had a real nice talk with Dean Malenko at night because he had been there for a while about the contract I was getting ready to sign and all that stuff. Some of the lawyers, it's just basic stuff you do. Like I said, it's kind of a clusterfuck anyway. But the point of my story was, and I'm grateful I had a job there. Well, they offered me the job that night. I was out there standing by the entrances, though, and man, the lights shined down, and they played Flair's music, and Kurt Hennig had his back to the audience, and he had it up in that, I don't know if it was in the ponytail or not, but he had Flair's robe on, and people thought it was me back home. They, next day when I got back home, and people was like, "We saw you on Nitro. We thought that was you, man." It was Kurt Hennig had his back to the camera and had that beautiful mullet going. And people that knew I was in Charlotte, of course, they was watching TV at night. They didn't know that I was on a dark match. I didn't know I knew I was going for a tryout, but I certainly wasn't going as a main event as Mr. Perfect, joined the Horsemen. That'd have been a great blessing right there to be able to do that. But nonetheless, man, a lot of people thought that was me at first that knew. All the people at the gyms I was working at and stuff, they said, "Man, I thought that was you at first when they showed it." And of course, he turned around, it was Kurt Hennig, and I think they started their feud from there. So I just wanted to tell you a little tidbit of knowledge. Okay, so it looks like once again my battery's getting kind of low. I want to thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate y'all working with us this month. There's been no delays so far, so hopefully this will come out on time as well. I'm going to try to track down Jeremy either via the Silver Scorpion or through whatever means I can, and see if he'll try to do something with this, edit it some or whatever, and get it up on the Bell to Bell page there. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, just about anywhere you find a podcast. Hell, you found it here, didn't you? The best thing I can ask you to do, and I mean it sincerely, is please share it with a friend. Share it and retweet it on Twitter. Share it on your Facebook with your friends. Well, we'd like to get some more listeners and get us out there. And I think we got a pretty good podcast, and I hope we keep you entertained sometimes, maybe make you laugh. I don't know. Anyway, listen, take care of each other out there. Be safe. We're going to be heading into March. It'll be windy probably. Beware the eyes of March, you know. And anyway, you all take care. And I'm going to try to record this thing and get it sent out and see what happens. All right, man. So long. So for the late Tex Johnson, the very missing Jeremy Vilmer, the professor, and who knows where, the Silver Scorpion, I'm Bobby Blaze, and I'm signing off with this thing right now.